Today, I'm joined by Somi Umolu. She is going to be on our JD Alternatives panel for the Break into Law School conference this June, and we are going to talk all about how she used her law degree to craft the perfect business. And if you've ever wondered about changing careers and maybe even a little fearful, do it scared. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Break into Law School. I'm your host, Lavetta Jenkins. Welcome, Somi.
Hi, Lavetta. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again. It has been such a pleasure getting to know you. But for everyone who's meeting you for the first time today, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Somi Umolu. I am currently a corporate lawyer, consultant, and working on some entrepreneurial ventures. I worked in law, big law before at Cravath, and prior to law school, I was at JP Morgan doing private wealth management. I went to college at Princeton and law school at Harvard, and I guess we'll get into anything else with Lavetta.
Absolutely. So, listen, Somi is one of the panelists on our JD Alternatives panel for the Break into Law School conference. And because of that, we're in an alternative space today because Somi is very busy, always moving and on the go. But Somi is, I believe, in the week I've known you, you've been in at least four different places.
Yeah.
I know you've been Chicago, New York, Florida, all over the place. Tell us how your work gets you all across the country and even different continents.
Well, yeah, it's like really exciting. So, first of all, I'm like very into the idea of building a life that feels good and doesn't just look good right now. So, a lot of the people that I love and a lot of the businesses and people I work with don't live in one city. And I didn't grow up in one place. I told Lavetta this in Chicago, London, Accra, Ghana, and then like college and law school were all over the place as well. So as far as like my business getting me other places, I consult with companies that are kind of all over. So New York and Chicago are like the primary places I've been running back and forth between, but also Accra, Ghana, which is where I went to high school, and where I have like some business ventures getting off the ground. I'm there a lot as well. And then there's just like a lot of travel in between. So my friends love to say like, where in the world is Somi? Like, where in the world is Carmen San Diego? All
Absolutely, because I've wondered that too. I've wondered where was me too. So, and it's interesting that you kind of move all over because that's how your studies were as well. You started off in finance and then made a life changing decision, I should say, to get into law. Tell us how you got there.
Sure. So graduating from college, I had the idea that I might want to go to law school, but one of my favorite professors, her name's Imani Perry, like she had gone to law school and become a professor at Princeton, but she wasn't like in the law at that point. And she was like, I feel like she advised, I feel like everybody who's going to go to law school should take a little bit of time to make sure that that's for them. And a lot of people in between college and law school try to work as a paralegal, which is kind of, it's not exactly a legal assistant, but you do jobs within a law firm that aren't specifically uh, legal functions, because you're not allowed to do like legal function jobs without going to law school and passing the bar and whatever. And she was like, I know you and you would hate that. So I think you should go out there and get like a job, like just experience the world. And I ended up going to JP Morgan, practicing like private wealth management with they called it the ultra high net worth group. And so it was like very designing portfolios and investments for like very, very wealthy people, individuals, and institutions. So think like $500 million and above. And it was an amazing decision, partially because even though I thought that I probably wouldn't want to do that forever, I landed on the best team and had like the best mentor who I'm still very much in touch with today. And I still like bounce ideas off of. So I worked there for about a couple of years while I was deciding what to do next.
Okay, you mentioned you had a mentor. How important are mentors to college students or just anyone who is looking for their life's path?
I think that they are priceless. I remember and sometimes it happens naturally, and sometimes you kind of have to seek them out. The way my personality is, I kind of need it to be natural, otherwise it doesn't happen. But like my first boss, as far as like speaking your name in rooms where you wouldn't even think that somebody knows who you are, um, giving you thoughts and guidance. I remember when I was choosing which law school to go to, I first of all, I didn't tell him I was applying to law school because I was like, I don't want him to think I don't want this job. And I remember the day I told him like where I'd gotten in. This man had literal tears in his eyes of happiness for me. And I remember talking to him about not being extremely sure about where I was going to go. And you know, you say something in passing and you ask somebody what you think, and this man called me like 5 days later with a pros and cons list, had reached out to people in his network, came back with like, this is what I think, but I don't think you could go wrong. And just like really thoughtful and helpful and willing to push you forward and speak life and vision into you. And even when I was thinking about leaving my law firm, he's one of the people who sat me down and was like, yes, you should do it. I believe in you. I know your abilities. And I think in a lot of ways, it's hard to leap, it's hard to dare without a mentor that really speaks life into you and like knows your capabilities and believes in like what you're to do next.
Right. I speak to a lot of people often, and I always tell them, it's okay if you really like your comfort zone. However, if you want to grow and want to branch out, you've got to come out of there. And sometimes you have to do things, even though you're scared, you have to do them scared. But I think having that mentor is like taking that leap, but with a really good, almost fail proof parachute. Like they've been there, they know the way, and they can really guide you. Would you say that you were able to pass that along to somebody else along the way?
I think so. I feel like in a lot of ways, like both in my family, and outside of family and friends and like mentees, like I have people reach out to me on LinkedIn and be like, "Hey, I see that you worked here or you went here, and I was wondering if if I could talk to you." And for me, I always have the time to do things like that because I remember being like a college student, being a law school student, and even like when I was making the decision to make a career transition, reaching out to people I didn't know. Like I saw them online and I was like, this is really cool. And I don't want anything from you except to just like speak to you. And obviously, time is something, but I really believe that, we are given so many opportunities and we owe it to our communities and to ourselves and to whatever you believe in. I believe in God, to God, to kind of give back and like share the things that he's given us. So I think there's no point in your career or your life where you're too grown or too uh, too successful to learn from other people. And some of those people will be further along in their career than you. Some of them will be your peers, and some of them will like have a different experience or be younger. But it's still a form of mentorship, and it's an important way to learn. And also, some people you don't even have to know. Like there are some people who are like, I'm like, you're my mentor, but you don't know it. Like
Right.
I
I look up to you. Share a tidbit with
yeah,
me.
like or like I've read all of the articles about you and I follow your career and I think you're really cool. And I don't know you personally, but in my head you're my mentor.
Right. You inspire me from afar. So I know you've been around in business and in law, and I believe you did some corporate transactional law. How did you
Yeah.
go from doing that to getting into consulting?
So corporate transactional law, like I knew I wanted to go into like corporate transactional work because it allows for a little bit more flexibility if you want to do something outside of the legal profession, like if you know that about yourself. And I've always been quite business minded, and I never went into the law thinking I want to be a lawyer forever. I just thought I want to have the skills to use them in different arenas if I need to. And I want to make sure I get the best training that I can. So I went to a law firm that's like, it's ranked really high and very rigorous. And it's like the whole law firm thing. Like if you think suits, it's like the law firm that Harvey Specter works at and Jessica leads, kind of. And I kind of did all of the things. So I did worked in mergers and acquisitions, which is basically buying and selling companies. I worked in IP transactions, which is like protecting intellectual property, licensing it, selling it, buying it. And then I worked in finance, which is basically uh, the legal part of like borrowing money, uh, like that for like very big transactions. And so once I had done those three, like once I was like quite experienced in all three of those arenas, and I was like in the situation where I was basically leading my deals and like second in command to the partner, I was like, okay, I understand that I have the skill set that I wanted to have coming here. So I have to decide, am I like trying to work to be partner at an organization, at this organization or an organization like this, or am I ready to try something new? And that's where the fear comes in because it it's not that it's easy because you're working like 80, 100 hours a week and you're like you're busy, but there's a path. You know that okay, this next year this is what my life will look like and the year after that and the year after that. Generally, if I'm going to stay on this path, and I kind of got to the crossroads where I was like, am I going to stay on this path or am I going to try some new things? Even though I'm scared, am I going to do it scared? Um, and so I ended up deciding I'm going to do it scared. And I set up my own little company and I I was very lucky. So there was a boutique firm that I had been in conversation with over, like a year or two, and I was like, listen, I am ready to leave and this is kind of what I would need to leave. And I we were kind of discussing where our where our interests aligned. Um, so I ended up going there. Like they hired me as a consultant, and so like technically I'm strategic advisor and I'm like special counsel there. And what's great about that is I get to choose what clients I work with. So I work with a lot of emerging companies, creatives, and entrepreneurs. And a lot of those people are like my personal friends and in my personal network. And I'm able to work with them in a way that I didn't have the liberty to do when I was in big law, because generally you sign a release that says like I'm not practicing law outside of this law firm, and a lot of the people in our communities can't afford that kind of like hourly. My hourly was, very very high. So I do that, and then like my brother has a tequila company called John Basil Tequila, and I've always like kind of helped with the legal and strategy, but I was able to do that in a more formal way, having like stepped away from like corporate. So I'm able to work in that space, and I'm also able to save space for like interesting projects that come up that I want to try, and like whether they're creative or in the hospitality space, I've like started dabbling a lot more in like real estate investing and like and then I have time to do things like the board that I'm on a board for a company called the African Women Entrepreneurship Collective. And it basically creates like this mini MBA for women across the African continent who are business owners and founders. And I've been able to like spend more time doing that. Like last year, they asked me to host a fireside chat with Meg Whitman, who's also somebody who, like, I've read about her. She's like the U.S. ambassador to Kenya. She used to head eBay. And so just like having space to be able to say yes to things that you're curious about or interested in. Um, I don't know. It all sounded exciting and I was scared and I'm still scared.
You're
But
still
that's
scared, but you're
how I
doing it scared. And I think that that makes a big difference. So we talked a little bit a week ago, and we were talking all about how it made more sense for you to do law because
yeah.
in law you could also do business. I want you to share a little bit about your thought process with that because I know you have a business background, but law trumped everything.
Yeah, I think it was interesting. So when I was in finance thinking about I knew that I wanted to go to grad school. And I was thinking, am I going to business school? Am I going to law school? Am I going to do them both? And I talked to a lot of our clients were like former lawyers that were now like principals at private equity companies and things like that. So I talked to a lot of them and they were like and I asked like why did you decide to pursue a law degree? And the thing that I noticed, or like a common theme, was that a lot of people were like, well, I figured if I go to a good law school, it doesn't shut the door for business opportunities in the future. Uh, but it does open the door to things that I wouldn't be able to do without this degree. So practicing at a law firm, working in legal at any company, or just like building your own company and being able to do a lot of the legal stuff yourself if you train and have the skills. And so I decided, okay, well, maybe I'll go to law school because it opens those doors. And I think that these are skills that I want to have. And I think that I could excel at it. And then once I get to law school, I'll decide if I want to do like a joint JD MBA is what it's called. So it's a law business degree together. Some places have a 3-year program. So you literally, it's like the same amount of time you would go to law school. And some places you have to stay an extra year or a year and a half. So I ended up going when I was in law school. I met with the JD MBA advisor, and he kind of looked at my resume and said, "Okay, you could also apply to law school, but if the idea is like to prove that you have the acumen to do business stuff, I think that, I was an economics major in college, and then economics major with a French and African American studies minor, and then I worked in finance. Like I didn't have anything legal on my resume until law school. So he was kind of like, I don't know if you need to. And it was like an extra year of school, an extra year of like money for school or student loans. And I kind of just thought, I don't know. I don't think that I need to do this. And I think everybody's like decision and like the balance of pros and cons will be different. But for me, I was like, I don't know that I need this for like where I see or hope that my life will go. I did take some business school classes, um, you know, and for now, I'm very happy with the decision. But I also have friends who've done like the joint degrees, and that, first of all, business school is a great time. So I think they enjoyed that, and you do like it is a great form of training. But for me, I thought like law school, and then I was like, I think I'm done with school now. Like it's time
Right.
to apply.
So, with your consulting that you do, what are you more focused on? Is there one area that, is your 100% expertise, or are you kind of like your resume, got your hand in a bunch of different things?
I think that my intention and my focus for this portion of my life is to have my hand in a few things. I think that I've always been someone who doesn't love doing just one thing. I find I'm motivated and interested in a lot of things. And I've been like that from when I was like a child till now. My mom's always like, I'm not surprised because you've always been this person. And so it's like it's like almost like right now I split my time in thirds. Like a third of it is working with like Runlet Advisory, which is the boutique I work with, working with my clients, doing like the corporate transactional stuff for them, advising, but also doing like drafting the documents, doing the contracts, like doing the legal thing. A third of it is like doing some just strategic advising for companies. So like the number one is John Basil Tequila. That's like our family company founded by my brother. It's available in Chicago, New York, and Miami, just in case anyone wants to try tequila and they're over 21. Um, uh, and so I do like I do strategy for JB, and I run legal, so I'm chief legal, and I'm very focused on like building and growing that company. And then in that vein, I have other like smaller companies that I work with. Um, Again, on the advising side, sometimes that spills over to legal. And then like on the in the other third of the pocket are things that I am interested in and have time for now that I've freed up my schedule a little. So that's working like on my board, or a friend of mine and me and a friend of mine set up an investment company, and we have a focus on like African women led businesses. So we are talking to companies, we are making investment decisions, and then just like spending some time, having the time to think and decide and grow and kind of figure out what else I want or
Yeah, what else you can get your hands into?
yeah.
I have talked to you, like I said, for like the last week, and I've known you to be in 16 different places. And you say this is freeing up time.
Oh
And
yeah.
you know what? I can see how you have also blocked off time to enjoy the life that you've curated for yourself.
And
Because
just
I can see where if you had stayed at that big law firm, you would not have all of this creative capability with all of the other businesses, and you wouldn't be able to advise somebody who couldn't really afford big law. So,
Yeah.
do you suggest this for somebody who wants to kind of be in business but be creative, more like a free spirit in business? If you say business and law school, do you suggest this same path for someone else?
I think that it depends. I think over the time when you're in school and in grad school and working, you really need to take the time to get to know who you are and how you work and what you enjoy. I have friends that are like, oh my God, your life is exhausting. I have friends that are like, I need to be in a library or in an office and I need silence to work. Everybody will tell you I am completely different. I love to work at a pool or in a coffee shop, which is why I'm not in an office now. Even when I like had my own office, everybody knew if you walked in, there would be some music playing. I'd be watching something while I'm working. It is just like the way I work, the way I'm most creative and productive. And that works for me. I also think that you owe it to yourself to get the kind of training that allows you to go out and tell people what you want to do and gives them the assurance that you can do it. Like I think that in my career, I've always said, okay, I want to do this and I want to do it at the best place I can and have the best training I can. And then once, if I look up and look around and I'm like, okay, want to, I don't need to be the partner here. I don't want anybody else's life here. And I feel like I've learned enough that I'm ready to do the next thing. But I won't lie and say like, oh my gosh, this is such an easy path. I knew that this is what I needed to do and I wasn't scared. That's not true. And I'm also still in the middle of it. So who knows? Like in 5 years, I might be like, yeah, girl, don't do that. Just keep going. But for now, I'm happy. And I think it's very important at some point in your life to make sure your life feels good. Make sure that you're not just doing it for the resume. You're not just doing it because other people think you should, or other people are like, oh my God, this is a great opportunity. Why would you leave? No, you're doing it because, the life that you want to have and the life that you want to build, these are the decisions you need to make for it. But yeah, it's a risk, but I do not regret it. Not yet. So I'll keep you guys updated.
We talked last week and we were saying how between the two of us, if you see somebody that is working in the place you're working and they're at the highest they can go and you don't want that life,
Exactly.
then you need to kind of think in yourself, okay, so what do I need to do to have the life that I want? And I think that that's what you did. You saw what the partners were doing and said, not necessarily for Somi.
Yeah, it's like you look around, you look up to the highest position in the company or in the space that you're at, and you think, and I thought, is this what I want? And at least at that point, the answer was no. And so I was, I was very much in the space where I was like, okay, well, let's try and figure out or build what it is that you do want. And I think that it's interesting when what you do want isn't necessarily what you've seen modeled, right? Because it's hard to go, like, while I had like my first boss, Mark Witt, he's like the most amazing individual, great inspiration and mentor. Well, I had him that was like, yes, definitely take the leap. You can do this. I also had people who were equally amazing but just didn't really understand the decision to step off of the beaten path. And it was a time when like when I put in notice like the all of the little tech banks were crumbling and the economy wasn't doing great. And it's scary to like leave something that's a sure thing. And so I had people that were like, no, 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 I would never do this. And it'll be, that's not great for this path that you are on. But you have to understand that not everybody understands the path that you want to be on. They understand the path that they've walked, right? So learning from people, but also keeping in mind what you want and that not everybody doesn't necessarily want the same things from life as you do, and everybody doesn't necessarily want to walk the same path as you. And so just it's just like learning from people and getting the tidbits, but also taking a step back and looking at your life and your desires and your motivations and ambitions and seeing, you know, where it makes sense to apply that advice and where it's like, thank you so much. And there is something to learn from that, but that thing that I'm learning is not telling me not to take this back. It's just, it's like a good warning. It's a good thing to understand.
Hmm. I like how you said, even in a place where you don't want to be, you can learn there.
So much.
Okay, so I see that this is what's going on and this is what's happening. This isn't necessarily, although it's a nice path, this isn't necessarily the path that I choose for me that is going to fit my life.
Yeah. And I
And
also
there's
think
freedom in that.
that while you're on that path, like it wasn't like I looked up and I was like, okay, I don't want to be a partner here. So now I'm going to do a terrible job. No, I was like, I am still, to the extent that I can kill it, I want to kill it because you never know, like, who's going to just say your name in a good space or like the right space. And as far as like doing your best at what you're doing until you're ready to do the next thing, I really do believe in that. Um, but yeah, also just being brave to be like, okay, bye.
That's my time. Like, just saying that and, doing your best job until you're done and then switching paths to something that does better suit your life. Is there a word of encouragement that you would like to share with anyone out there who's, getting ready to finish undergrad and thinking, I don't really know what I want, but I want to do something else?
My one of my mentors told me this, and the older I get, the more I understand it to be true. Don't you worry, because most people don't know what they want or where they're going. We are all figuring it out as we go along. And so it's not, I think that hopefully that makes you comfortable in the discomfort. Like it's easy to come along and then look back and be like, yes, I went here and I did this and it all made sense. When really, a lot of times you're just stumbling into the next thing. And I also think that like there's this rhetoric that you have to have this big passion and that's what you're supposed to do in the world and nothing else. But honestly, sometimes it's like about what you want to do next and what you're interested in now. And it's okay for that to evolve and change and grow and all of those things. And I think that a lot of times when we're young, we put so much pressure on ourselves to know like the 10-year, like where we're going to be in 10 years. And it's great. Visualize where you want to be in 10 years, in 5 years, in a year, but also give yourself the flexibility to change and grow and like become curious about different things and like make those decisions as well. So I feel like that's like my big thing.
I always say it's good to know that you are the author and you can always give a plot twist.
Exactly.
You
Keeps
can
it interesting
always
too.
decide, yeah. You can always decide, you know what, this has been amazing. Something else is coming too, and I'm going to go and do that. And it doesn't take away from who you are, but it definitely adds to you and your story.
And it allows you to be grateful in each space you're in because you understand that this is not a space, it doesn't have to be your forever. It is the space you're in right now. And then you can see the positive things and the things you're taking from it and the ways that in which you can learn and grow. And then when you move to the next thing, you can be grateful for that too because you're like, we can always switch it up.
Always, always gonna switch it up. And that's why, once again, we have you speaking at the JD Alternatives panel because you definitely are the queen of, you know what, I'm gonna do something alternative with this JD and switch it up and do something else. And I thank you for agreeing to do that. And I thank you for being on with me today.
Oh,
So, you've been amazing. Thank you.
thank you. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much, Loretta.